U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has arrived in Taiwan. It's despite China's threats of strong measures to safeguard its sovereignty and security interests. She landed on the island earlier this afternoon. Pelosi beginning her Asia trip on Monday in Singapore. She's expected to meet with Taiwanese officials this evening. Now, Beijing considers Taiwan as a breakaway province, while Taiwanese residents consider the self-ruled island as a separate state. Let's unpack the story further. We're joined by Senior Research Fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues, Thembisa Fakude. Mr. Fakude, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Of course, lots of people across the world probably waiting with bated breath since they saw that aircraft of Nancy Pelosi land in Taiwan. It's really about what's likely to happen next.
Well, what's likely to happen next is that she's going to be meeting different organizations tomorrow, including some of the pro-democracy movements in Taipei. So it's going to be business as usual, notwithstanding, of course, that China is upset about this. But as you know, that the U.S. president has insisted that he had nothing to do with it and he could control Nancy Pelosi's movement. As you know, in the States, the political systems works in a different way. The Speaker of the Representatives is totally independent from the executive. So even if Joe Biden wanted to stop Nancy Pelosi could have still gone. The only challenge, of course, here is that she's using a military airplane, which means, therefore, that the executive was involved.
Let's look at some of what has been said, including by Chinese officials. One, Liu Jiamong, who is a Chinese government official, says they're closely following Pelosi's itinerary and they consider her visit as gross interference in China's internal affairs and seriously undermine China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Of course, it comes amid further warnings that there would be a big price to pay if this trip went ahead.
Well, it did go ahead, and as I've said earlier on, that Joe Biden, and I'm sure this is what he probably discussed with Xi Jinping, that he couldn't control the Speaker of the House of Representatives because there's two separate powers and independence between the two political powers in the United States. As you know, Nancy Pelosi is not the first one. The Republican with the funny name, Newt Gingrich, went there in 1997. And again, when the Democrats were asked at the time who were in power, they raised the same or responded in the same manner to say we've got no control on how the conservatives or the GOP acts in this regard. So this is the same excuse that they've given to Xi Jinping this time around, that they totally don't have control on how the Congress or members of Congress they can't prevent them from engaging in such trips, and even if they did try, it would be a very difficult one to do. So China finds itself in a much more complicated position. Do they act forcefully as they promise, or do they accept that the United States political infrastructure operates in a different way?
It really, brings the next issue to the table here, which is the anticipated fallout and what that might look like. So you think it won't be as easy for China to act on their threats?
Well, I've been listening to John Kirby, who's since moved from the Pentagon into the White House as a spokesperson, and he's been insisting that the United States is not interested in seeing an independent Taiwan, meaning that the United States still insists that there must be, or agrees with the one China policy. So I don't see anything happening serious this time around. Besides, Chinese foreign policy of the One Belt Road Initiative is dependent on good neighborliness, and I'm not quite sure whether they are willing to start a war with the United States, which might disturb their foreign policy and economics as they continue to advance the Belt Road Initiative. So I don't see or anticipate any forceful reaction as promised by Xi Jinping a couple of days ago. Instead, they will issue strong statements condemning what has been happening, what has happened, and the United States will respond as they normally do, that they couldn't prevent the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, from traveling because of the political infrastructure in the United States, which totally separate powers.
Of course, Nancy Pelosi, in explaining that visit to Taiwan, says that, this visit is part of her delegation's commitment to supporting Taiwan's vibrant democracy. And like you're saying, the plan is to meet with various people, including leaders of civil society in Taiwan, that will largely be talking about human rights abuses on the part of China.
Well, she's fierce in terms of promotion of basic human rights and democracy. And this is a typical Nancy Pelosi, who will grab the bulls by the horns and go against the tide. And that's what we're seeing her doing this time around, that no one will stop her from pursuing her beliefs. And in this instance of going and supporting the people of Taiwan against the tyrant in the form of China, who has continued to suppress basic human rights in various parts of the world, including Hong Kong, Xinjiang, where the Uyghurs are persecuted, in Tibet. So Nancy Pelosi is doing what a normal Democrat will do, which is confronting the bully in that part of the world, and ensuring that those who believe in these basic human rights continue to do so without fear.
Are you expecting things to remain tense until she leaves Taiwan?
Well, yes, but at the moment, I've been looking at the pictures. The Taiwanese seem extremely excited. There's celebrations all over, and people are quite happy that Nancy Pelosi has visited their country. But at the same time, it also gives them a level of confidence that should anything happen in the future, the United States will be there for them. And I think what the United States is doing, using Nancy Pelosi, on the other hand, is to test the Chinese resolve. Are they really bluffing when they say there will be a serious reaction, or are they serious? But so far, it looks as if it's just a bluff and nothing serious is going to come out of the rhetoric that we've heard from Xi Jinping over the past couple of days.
So ultimately, Thembisa, you're saying that part of what we're seeing unfold here could be down to semantics, and it's really about the optics of what each individual country would have us see. But and as far as the U.S. is concerned, behind the scenes, they're not as divorced as a country from this visit by Nancy Pelosi as the White House would have us believe.
No, that's true. I mean, it's all about testing the resolve of the Chinese. What are they going to do? And it's important because their reaction will be certainly taken into consideration by the Defense Ministry in the United States in terms of the possible reaction from China. I mean, the United States is dying to see the military reaction of the Chinese as they've done in Ukraine. Now they know how far Russia can go and what are the Russian capabilities in terms of responding to a U.S. or Western aggression. And I think what Joe Biden, an experienced politician, would like to see from China is an angry China, and all haven't seen an angry China. We don't know how China will react or how China reacts when it's angry. And I think that's what the United States would like to see from China, and that is why many people are saying that the U.S., through Nancy Pelosi, is trying to get that reaction.
I don't know if many people want to see what an angry China looks like there. Thembisa Fakude, a senior research fellow at the Africa-Asia Dialogues.